Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. In that case, how many gods were still alive in the world? Why did these gods abandon their corporeal bodies and enter Fengdu? Where are their corporeal bodies at? Wait a minute. Qin Mu's mind was blown as qi and blood rushed into his brain, causing his ears to ring. There were many gods in his world. It was just that they had already become stone statues. They were the stone statues protecting the people in great ruins. Didn't this mean that they could revive any time and become gods? This guess was shocking. All kinds of strange incidents in great ruins had troubled Qin Mu for a long time, but if his guess was correct, he could explain part of the strangeness. For example, the incident at Heavenly King Temple in which the Heavenly King's stone statue had ridden the dragon Qilin to slay the Dragon King at night. For example, the incident of the white-back god statues reviving. And for example, when he and village chief roamed the night of great ruins and saw the battle between gods and devils. Of course, there were still numerous unexplainable things. In the incident of slaying the Dragon King, the Heavenly King of Heavenly King Temple had gone on the order of founding emperor to slay the Dragon King that had rebelled. Where had this order of founding emperor come from? In the incident of white-back god statues, why was there a god that looked like an overlord body petrified in the depths of Ghost Valley? Why was there a passage to Yudu there? During the battle between the gods and devils, who was the one fighting with the gods of great ruins? On top of that, the primordial spirits of Fengdu's gods also couldn't explain the sight of the 5 worlds overlapping at the source of Surging River. They also couldn't begin to explain how Qin Mu had returned to the ancient times. The strange sights in great ruins are just like the sea of fog. After pushing the fog away, there is more fog, making it hard to see the real thing, Qin Mu thought. They came to a very wide river in the city. There was a flying bridge that connected the two shores. Qin Mu went to the railing to look down, but he only saw dense fog churning instead of water. Once in a while, he could see slimy bodies slithering within it. Is this place connected to the sea of fog? He inquired. No. The other end of the dense fog is Yudu. Those things are life forms of Yudu, bird-headed god Kai Xiu said. Life forms of Yudu. Qin Mu's mind was muddle-headed. He muttered, Fengdu and Yudu are connected? Won't Yudu attack this place? God Kai Xiu didn't explain. He led them across the bridge of helplessness and came to a sacred hall. It was called Hall of King Qin. When Qin Mu saw the 3 words on the horizontally inscribed board, he couldn't help being stunned. Why is this sacred hall called Hall of King Qin? Could the hall master's surname be Qin? He was puzzled, but the bird-headed god escorted them into the hall. At that moment, the hall was brightly lit, yet the light gave a feeling of a void. It was as if it wasn't truly fire. Its light was also hazy. On both sides of the hall, there were awe-inspiring and solemn sculptures of ghost gods. They were tall and had queer appearances, their body parts different from those of ordinary people. With sashes around their bodies, they held all kinds of weapons in their hands, like knives, spears, swords, halberds, shields, tokens, and even huge snakes. Qin Mu stopped in front of one sculpture to examine it, wanting to study the rune markings on its body. But suddenly, the eyeballs of the ghost god sculpture rolled and looked at him curiously. Qin Mu jumped in shock and hurriedly took a step back. The eyeballs of the ghost god sculpture looked forward again then, making him think that he'd been seeing things. These are not sculptures, but real ghost gods. Qin Mu instantly became well-behaved and went after God Kai Xiu. In the main hall, a god cloaked in black sat upright and still, busy reading through memorials. God Kai Xiu bowed and said, King Yama, convicts Qin Mu, Xing'an, and Shaman God Kuei have been captured. Awaiting your orders. The black-robed god placed the cinnabar brush in his hand down and raised his head. His face under the black robe couldn't be seen clearly. Only 2 dim lights could be seen. Xing'an's predestined lifespan is yet to end, and he's not under the jurisdiction of my Fengdu, so let him go. God Kai Xiu was slightly stunned, but he still followed the orders and let Xing'an go. Xing'an, even though you have done much evil, Fengdu doesn't deal with people who are yet to die, King Yama said. You can leave. Xing'an was surprised but delighted. He sneered and said, so Fengdu is still a reasonable place. Very good, farewell. He was about to move, but the other 20 to 30 bodies on him weren't willing. They made him unable to take a step. Xing'an was astonished and angry. Those bodies were struggling, screaming and cursing, wanting to repay him with kind. How can Hall of King Qin tolerate such clamor? King Yama's voice turned unpleasant. Throw him out. Suddenly, two of the ghost god sculptures moved. The two ghost gods held military forks with which they stabbed Xing'an and threw him out of the hall. Didn't you say you will let me leave? Why are you still keeping me in Fengdu? Xing'an asked angrily. God Kaixio sneered. How can you blame others if you can't walk out yourself? Ignorant. King Yama then looked at Shaman God Kuei, who was not frightened at all. He sneered and said, my predestined lifespan isn't over as well. Old man Qin, shouldn't you let me go as well? Old man Qin. Qin Mu's heart trembled violently. King Yama's surname is also Qin? Who is he exactly? Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Blood sacrifice builds a bridge that passes through both worlds. I can steal a portion of energy and import it through the bridge which won't abide by the balance of energy. Dutian Devil King smile. Last time you summoned me, the sacrificial energy was insubstantial, so I had to mobilize a huge amount of energy to descend into this world. That was equivalent to forcefully squeezing myself through. However, the energy to squeeze myself in required me to withstand the pressure from the two worlds, so the energy I could squeeze in was still limited. It soon surpassed my limits. Power that is smuggled over is dependent on the author's abilities. Enlightened, Qin Mu frowned. However, in the darkness of great ruins, the world barrier doesn't exist when the two worlds overlap. How do you explain this? Dutian Devil King chuckled. What if the energy that's being squeezed in surpasses the limit that this world can withstand? Qin Mu's heart trembled violently. What you mean is a large-scale blood sacrifice which constructed hundreds of thousands of bridges for hundreds of thousand gods and devils to smuggle and pour their energy into that world. Dutian Devil King gave a sinister smile. It would burst apart the barrier of that world. Once the world barrier is gone, there will be no barrier anymore, and other worlds can launch a massacre without any obstruction anymore. Qin Mu's blood ran cold, and he shuddered a few times. Disbelief colored his face, and he cried out, what you mean is that world in the darkness of great ruins is a world whose barrier had been burst apart. It might not be that world in the darkness that had its barrier burst open, Dutian Devil King said while beaming at him. Don't you think your world could be the world without the world barrier? Qin Mu shook his head. If this world was the one without it, you could have long descended. That world I saw in the darkness had a lot of space holes opened up by countless devil gods who led their people to attack. It's clearly a world that had its world barrier burst apart. Dutian Devil King sat down on the chest and yawned. Swinging his legs, he said, your description of the world in the darkness overlapping with this treacherous world reminds me of a terrifying possibility, world sacrifice. Incomparably sinister smiles appeared on the four faces, and the statue almost jumped up in excitement. World sacrifice is the sacrifice of an entire world. With this terrifying energy that crashes against another world, 1,000,000 gods and devils can descend together and destroy that world. This is the grandest of plans. They are going to destroy that world? Qin Mu asked in bewilderment. The wooden devil god statue creaked as the heads turned. All four pairs of eyes landed on the youth. Qin Mu's hair stood up on ends, and he cried out, you are saying that after the hundreds of thousands of devil gods that burst apart the world barrier of that world in the darkness planned to sacrifice that world to descend here? Dutian Devil King's heads rotated around their necks a few times as he clapped his hands in praise. Smart. When great ruins overlaps with that world, they will sacrifice that world. The resulting energy would be so enormous that it will allow the world filled with devils to descend onto great ruins. When that time comes, the terrifying sight of two worlds colliding will be seen, and billions of life forms will perish. I'm excited just thinking about it. Qin Mu had a blank expression. He suddenly shook his head and said, "Impossible, that's impossible. The darkness has existed for 20,000 years. Doesn't it mean that the fight in that world has already lasted for some 20,000 years? How could a war last so long? Impossible." Dutian Devil King jumped down from the chest and said, "If I were you, I would have long emigrated to another world. A wise man foresees and mitigates risks. When the nest is overturned, there will be no eggs left unbroken. This world is too dangerous, so I'm going back now. Also, don't annoy me frequently. I'm scared of you." Before jumping into the darkness so his soul could return to Dutian world, he shouted out, "When the world in the darkness is destroyed, it will be the day when your world will collide with the devil god's world, and that will be your doomsday as well." He then rushed into the darkness and was instantly invaded. Qin Mu hurriedly sprinted after him, but only saw the wooden statue shattering into pieces. He frowned and returned back to the side of the chest. The energy in the white bone altar was also exhausted, so they shattered. Can the words of Dutian Devil King be trusted? That guy doesn't look trustworthy, and now he describes something that's so terrifying. Qin Mu composed himself. The words of Dutian Devil King were simply too terrifying, so how much could he trust them? However, when he thought about it, Dutian Devil King's nature was to take joy in calamity and delight in disaster. He wished for the whole world to be in chaos, so there was no need for him to scare him. Eternal peace is too weak. Qin Mu let out a shaky breath and thought to himself. However, the world in the darkness has already been fighting the devil race for 20,000 years and has lasted until now. They wouldn't just be defeated now and get sacrificed by the other party, right? That's why eternal peace still has a lot of time before it'll have to face the devil world, so there's no need to worry too much. I had almost wet my pants from Dutian scaring me. Groundless fear, this must be just groundless fear. After a few days, Qin Mu finally walked out of great ruins and returned back to eternal peace. He immediately took a fast ship from Secret Waters Pass to head toward the capital. He wrote a memorial to the emperor and offered up the black tortoise bead that Xiong Xiu had given him as a tribute. He also talked about the matter regarding paving roads. Emperor Yangfeng gathered all the civil and military officials to discuss, and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was also among them. Many of the officials were against paving the roads, but Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor argued with them, standing his ground against the opinions of the masses. Only when Emperor Yangfeng said he was going to execute those who were against the idea with a smile that the matter regarding paving the roads was settled. Emperor Yangfeng then handed this matter over to the Ministry of Works and let Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor manage it. Qin Mu found him later and said, "The divine arts of West Earth are very suitable for our cult. Heavenly King can bright a few of our elders and hall masters to recruit some talents." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was puzzled. "Cult Master Qin, isn't this inappropriate for me to handle? You are one of the 4 great heavenly kings of our sacred cult, so of course you will be the one in charge." Veins popped out on Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's forehead as he said stiffly, "What about Cult Master?" Qin Mu smiled and said, "I'm going to find friends and relatives to do business and earn more money." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor pondered over it. After he was forced by Qin Mu to become the Heavenly King of Heavenly Saint Cult, he didn't seem to have done anything much with his new role. It was always Qin Mu and Heavenly Saint Cult helping him without holding back. Heavenly Saint Cult's ideology and his didn't clash. Since he had received its grace, he naturally had to repay the favor. "All right, I'll head to West Earth with a few elders, heavenly kings, and hall masters to recruit more talents for the sacred cult." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor sent him out of his manor, but stopped him right after. "Cult Master Qin, as the Cult Master Sacred Teacher, you still haven't spent much time with the cult. You are always fooling outside and don't even have time to cultivate. Remember not to hold back your advancement in cultivation. In the era of great changes, the paths, skills, and divine arts are changing and seeing rapid developments. When I returned to eternal peace not long ago, I was also learning the new paths, skills, and divine arts that appeared here. Cultivation is a boat going against the current, and you will fall behind if you don't learn. Cult Master, take note. Qin Mu's heart moved slightly, and he asked, "You are already a god, but you still have to learn the new paths, skills, and divine arts." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor nodded. Among the young experts in Cult Master's generation, there is no lack of people with ideas. For sword skills, I have already imparted the 3 basic sword skills I had founded, and as for Cult Master's 18th sword form, I also imparted it. Just these 4 new basic sword skills were enough to create countless new sword moves. After the cultivation method of 6 directions Primordial Spirit was released, there were even more changes to the paths, skills, and divine arts. The new basic sword skills could only change the sword skills, while the change in the cultivation system was much greater. Qin Mu deeply agreed with him. Founding a sword skill was difficult, but it was even more difficult to change the foundation. When it was changed, countless people would gain a chance to create something new, and it was a great opportunity for them. Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu had founded Primordial Spirit Guide, which changed the foundation of cultivation. When it was changed, there appeared countless new possibilities, and many people put their knowledge to work on this new foundation, making the paths, skills, and divine arts take the leap forward. Like that, numerous great masters would be born. However, Qin Mu also had to learn the new paths, skills, and divine arts. I suggest you go to Imperial College and the 4 big academies. Stay in each academy for a period of time and exchange pointers with the young people there. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor sighed ruefully. The paths, skills, and divine arts see rapid developments daily, and the ideas of the youths are really endless. In just a few months' time, I've already grown old and fallen behind times, needing to learn from those youths. In the future, there will definitely be many more of the younger generation who can cultivate to the god realm. 2 days before you came to the capital, Dao Master Lin Xian led a bunch of young disciples to Imperial College to exchange pointers regarding paths, skills, and divine arts where I had also learned. When talking with him, I had quite a lot of thoughts and feelings. Yesterday, Rulai Ma had also brought numerous monks and demons over to debate in Imperial College. However, I didn't have the time to go. Old Ma is also in the capital. Qin Mu was delighted. He then asked, "Imperial Preceptor, how many gods are there in Eternal Peace Empire?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was slightly stunned. "Why are you asking this?" Qin Mu told him about what he had seen in Great Ruins and shared Dutian Devil King's guess. The collision with the other world may happen tens of thousands of years later, but it could also happen tomorrow, so we have to make preparations. The more gods there are in Eternal Peace Empire, the better it will be. Or else, we won't be able to defend against the opponent. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor muttered to himself irresolutely before asking suspiciously, "You were able to enter the darkness?" Qin Mu hesitated for a moment before telling him the truth. "I was born in Yudu. King Yama said that I can enter the darkness of Great Ruins and not get hurt. I guess what he meant was that I may be a half-devil from Yudu." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor didn't think much of it and said, "If heaven wants to wipe out my eternal peace, there's nothing I can do. As of now, the Emperor has crossed the Divine Bridge, and there are over 10 gods in the borders. I told the Emperor that all the gods must be recorded. He has already done that, but to fight against the devil world as dangerous as that, eternal peace won't have the strength even in dozens of years. If that day really comes," he smiled and said calmly, "I'll pass all my responsibility to you." Qin Mu's heart trembled, for he knew when he heard the determination of sacrificing one's life for the Empire. The devils have been attacking that world in the darkness for over 20,000 years, so there's no reason that they would win against it tomorrow. Imperial Preceptor doesn't have to worry about it. Paving the roads is more important. The 2 people bade farewell. Qin Mu brought the dragon Cheline and the chest to Imperial College, which was much more bustling than before. There were quite a number of divine arts practitioners from all the lands, even the prairie and the ice plains. Emperor Yangfeng had ordered the 4 big academies to split the pressure on Imperial College, so River Tomb Academy, Surging River Academy, Lee River Academy, and Heavenly Saint Academy were also flourishing. They had a lot of scholars, but compared to Imperial College, they still lacked some experience. Cult Master Qin. Grand Chancellor Qin. News of Qin Mu's arrival immediately spread throughout the Imperial College, and Tao Master Lin Xian brought numerous Taoists over. Old Ma also brought his monks, while Jiyu Linwan brought Imperial scholars to welcome him. His friends in Imperial College also came forth to welcome him. Qin Mu hurriedly greeted all of them in the bustling Imperial College. Grand Chancellor Qin was a scholar of our Imperial College's scholars' residence, and even then I've known that he was definitely going to be extraordinary and soar like a true dragon. Jiyu Linwan's face glowed as he smiled. Who would have thought that Scholar Qin would become the Grand Chancellor of Heavenly Saint Academy? Come to think of it, I'm honored as well. Qin Mu laughed loudly. Lord Jiyu, I've come to seek knowledge once again, so I'm still your little scholar. Jiyu Linwan was greatly moved. Lord Qin, don't say it like this. Come to think of it, we are old friends. Back when I met you at Surging River Dragon Palace, I already knew you were extraordinary, otherwise, I wouldn't have given you my junior protector sword. That's what people call having a sharp eye for recognizing pearls, gifting the treasured sword to the hero. The fate between me and Lord Qin has started from Surging River Dragon Palace. Ha 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 ha. Everyone was lively, and Qin Mu paid his respects to Rulai Ma and Lin Xian before exchanging conventional greetings with Wei Yong, Chen Wanyun, Yu Qinghong, and the rest. The Devil Ape was also among them, so it was naturally incomparably lively. Wei Yong, Chen Wanyun, and the rest had gone to train in the army during the past 2 years, and their cultivations had also improved rapidly. They had grown into people who could take charge of a section, and Qin Mu was happy for them. There were also other experts in Imperial College that had long found success and went to other places to become officials. The Devil Ape appearing in Imperial College was, however, out of Qin Mu's expectation. When Xing'an had created a ruckus in Little Thunderclap Monastery, Little Rulai couldn't take a worship from Shaman God Kuei and his soul had scattered. Devil Ape Zhong Kong then led the monks of Little Thunderclap Monastery to Great Thunderclap Monastery as per Little Rulai's instructions. The journey there had been arduous. When they came to Great Thunderclap Monastery, the arrival of so many demon monks naturally invoked quite a commotion. As Little Rulai's disciple, Devil Ape Zhong Kong was on the same seniority as Old Ma. A human and a demon discussed Buddhism on the golden peak of Mount Meru with countless monks standing below. The Devil Ape's words were few, but every word he said was like a pearl. He only had 3 to 5 words in a sentence, but each one was shocking and made the men reflect deeply. He made the eminent monks on Mount Meru speechless to the point that they could no longer debate. This lasted for 3 days until all the monks fell back in defeat. Luckily, a bearded general of eternal peace came up the mountain. When he went to the golden peak and took off his armor, he called himself Monk Mingxin and debated with the Devil Ape for a few more days. Only then did Great Thunderclap Monastery gain back some face. Monk Mingxin didn't have many words, and all he talked about was about the life of people. He didn't talk about any classics nor any Buddhist teachings. However, his words held deep meaning and made everyone feel that what he said was Buddhism, which was really brilliant and varied. Their debate had shocked the world. Old Ma praised the two of them for their eloquence and unfettered debate, then took the demon Buddhist scriptures from the Devil Ape and recognized the demon monks as part of Great Thunderclap Monastery. The two houses merged into one. This incident was a huge matter in Eternal Peace Empire and spread throughout all the sacred grounds and academies. It was known as the Tao debate on Golden Peak and grew to be very famous as an anecdote for a period of time. During that time, Qin Mu had been running from Xing'an, so he hadn't managed to witness the happenings on Mount Meru. As for whether or not they were true to the legend, he didn't know. This time, Old Ma bringing the Devil Ape and Monk Mingxing, as well as a bunch of other monks over, was also a huge matter that shook the city. With Tao Master Lin Xian bringing numerous Taoists as well, it could be said to be a grand occasion. After the commotion, everyone sat down in Hall of Supreme Learning. When Qin Mu said he was there to seek knowledge, everyone couldn't help being astonished, and Ji Yulinwan had also thought that he had only said it out of courtesy before. Never would he have expected that Qin Mu was really there to seek knowledge. Ji Yulinwan then immediately invited the divine arts practitioners from all halls in Imperial Preceptor to talk about their comprehensions. The Taoists and monks of Tao sect and Great Thunderclap Monastery also came forward to talk about their own attainments. For a period of time, all kinds of never-before-seen divine arts, paths, and skills flooded the room, and even Qin Mu couldn't help exclaiming endlessly in admiration. He was in awe at the creativity of these divine arts practitioners. After 2 days, Ling Yuxiu and Ling Yushu came to the capital for debriefing. When they heard about what was happening in the Imperial College, they joined in to discuss the reform and new developments in the paths, skills, and divine arts. After a few more days, the younger generations from the other 4 big academies had also hurried over. The scholars of Heavenly Saint Academy were led by Sai Yunxiang. The scholars of River Tomb Academy followed Qin Feiyu, who was the disciple of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, the Directorate of River Tomb Academy. Yu Yuan Chuyu brought the scholars of Surging River Academy, and as for Li River Academy, its Grand Chancellor was B.A. Shan. Li River was the farthest away, and a talented person was needed to build the academy up, so the Emperor had appointed B.A. Shan with that position. The younger generation of the 4 big academies gathered in Imperial College, and it grew even more bustling. To everyone's surprise, Wang Muren, Mu Qingdai, and Long Yu of Little Jade Capital hurried over after a few more days as well. Before they could even be seated, they heard laughter. The moment I heard Cult Master has come to Imperial College, I hurried over, but I still seemed to be late. Qin Mu hurriedly rose to welcome the newcomer with a smile. Brother Shu, I hope you were well since the parting at Little Thunderclap Monastery. Shu Shenhua brought Jing Yang over. I didn't hear news of Cult Master for a long time, and seeing you well finally puts me at ease. Everyone was seated, and Imperial College was extraordinarily bustling. The divine arts practitioners of all the factions talked about their skills and paths, their cultivations and primordial spirits. All kinds of strange thoughts and wonderful ideas were voiced. They alarmed Emperor Yangfeng and the court officials so much that they came to listen as well. Qin Mu, Ling Yuxiu, Sai Yunxiang, Daoist Lin Xian, Devil Ape Zhong Kong, Mingxing, Xu Shenhua, and Wang Muren were all invited up to the stage to talk about their paths, skills, and divine arts. The collision of different types of thoughts and ideas intoxicated the audience listening below. They all had unique attainments in primordial spirit, and by voicing all the strange thoughts and marvelous ideas, they provoked even more creativity. I've had a thought, Qin Mu suddenly said with a smile. Eternal peace is becoming bigger and bigger, which makes it hard to communicate when we are located in the north, south, east, or west. However, primordial spirit can travel fast and move millions of miles in an instant. If we could communicate with primordial spirits, wouldn't that save us all that time of journeying around to meet up? His suggestion was instantly met with numerous approvals from the youths in the audience. All of them started to rack their brains to think of ways for different primordial spirits to communicate and voice them without restraint. Emperor Yangfeng and Duke Wei looked at each other in dismay. Duke Wei said, they were still talking normally earlier, but now they've begun to talk nonsense. The primordial spirit moves too fast, crossing millions of miles in an instant, so it's hard to gather it together. It's hard to control the primordial spirit and even know where it has gone, so what talk could there be about communication in a specific place with it? Emperor Yangfeng smiled and said, let's look and see. After a moment, Duke Wei and the rest stared with their eyes wide open, dumbfounded. In front of Hall of Supreme Learning, as everyone discussed how to draw various primordial spirits together, all kinds of techniques were easily created. This made Duke Wei, Emperor Yangfeng, and the rest of the older generation exclaim endlessly in admiration. Qin Mu in the meantime was tidying up the ideas, and after a long time, he finally created a new technique on the foundation of primordial spirit guide. He imparted the technique to everyone, which filled them with excitement. They immediately reconstructed Hall of Supreme Learning and added all kinds of rune markings in its interior. Everyone, let's go 1,000 miles north, south, east, and west to hold a primordial spirit assembly, Qin Mu said excitedly. The 10 million scholars in Hall of Supreme Learning rose with an uproar and left into the distance. The Imperial College instantly emptied out. Only the Emperor and the officials were left, looking at the empty hall. After 2 hours, Qin Mu's primordial spirit suddenly appeared, its body gigantic. His consciousness shook slightly as he stated, "The first primordial spirit assembly begins." Bang, bang, bang. Primordial spirits instantly appeared in Hall of Supreme Learning, gathering all together. 10 million primordial spirits sat down in the void. Outside, Emperor Yangfeng and the rest were speechless for a long time, staring blankly before themselves. A change in the art of war is imminent. Duke Wei suddenly sighed ruefully. Grand General of Heavenly Strategies and the rest nodded when they heard his words. Qin Mu and the 10,000 scholars as well as the divine arts practitioners of the sacred grounds had messed around and made a primordial spirit assembly. They were having fun and felt that it was something interesting, but the shock it brought to the generals that led the army was incomparably huge. Since ancient times, the battlefield changed in a matter of seconds. The communications between the army, its reinforcements, supply train, and the emperor posed a huge problem. In the past, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had forged flying ships to soar through the sky. He also forged land ships and paved roads everywhere to make traveling faster. Besides making it more convenient for people to meet, it allowed for news to travel faster. And because of using both the land and sky, more places were covered. Yet as the territory of Eternal Peace Empire expanded, the time taken for news to travel from one place to another kept on growing. The time taken for the army to move to the border also increased. Even though the pill furnace that Qin Mu had improved could increase the speed, the number of medicinal stones burned in just one trip was extremely great. If a flying ship set off from the capital and headed for True Heaven Palace in West Earth, it would take several days, and the medicinal stones burned would be enough to fight a small-scale battle. If it was a large-scale operation to move soldiers, they would require strange beasts as a mode of transport to help the foot soldiers advance. Relying on flying ships to transport soldiers was too costly. But with the primordial spirit assembly, they would be able to send news and be in control of a battle that was even 200 miles away. In the hands of a general, something like that could literally decide the fate of the battle. Your Majesty, Chancellor Qin used the word assembly. He has the heart to rebel. An old minister knelt onto the floor and said loudly, "Assembly is always a court assembly, and this so-called assembly is meant to collect the civil and military officials in court." Chancellor Qin's usage of the word assembly shows his ambitious heart. May your Majesty order his execution. Emperor Yangfeng was speechless, and the general scolded that old minister angrily. The old minister then kowtowed and banged his head against the ground loudly to show his loyalty. After a moment, Emperor Yangfeng waved his hand and said calmly, "Assembly isn't just used by the imperial court. LDUGE is lacking in knowledge. Attending the court can mean entering a court assembly, but it can also be used in other ways." Back in the day, Heaven Knife had written a poem which he started with words assembly with friends at Wei River. Heaven Knife is a literary hero, and his knowledge surpasses yours by 100 times, his writings eulogized even until now. He isn't the emperor, but I don't see anyone saying he's trying to rebel by using the word assembly. The emperor helped LDUGE up and told him with a pleasant expression, "LDUGE, you are old, so I won't execute you. I permit you to return to your hometown." The other ministers were puzzled. His Majesty seems to be in a good mood today. He actually didn't behead him. LDUGE only lost his official position but not his head. He's so fortunate. Everyone, stop talking, be quiet now. Qin Mu's voice rang loudly. Let me first ensure that we can communicate between primordial spirits. Can you guys hear me talking? In Hall of Supreme Learning, countless people spoke up. We can hear you clearly. Execute your techniques and see if you feel discomfort in your primordial spirit, he then ordered them. Numerous primordial spirits made a racket in Hall of Supreme Learning. Suddenly, one person's primordial spirit vanished with a pop before reappearing after a moment. It was pretty scary. There were also some primordial spirits that were fading out from time to time while another group of people was floating around. Laughter echoed through the Hall of Supreme Learning that was in turmoil. Everyone was getting headaches from that noise. Qin Mu recorded everything that happened and clapped. All right, dismissed. Everyone pulled their primordial spirits back and vanished from Hall of Supreme Learning. The first ever primordial spirit assembly had ended like that. Emperor Yangfeng turned his head and looked at the scribe behind him. Have you noted it down? That scribe carrying a thick scroll hesitated. Your Majesty, this primordial spirit assembly was only Lord Qin fooling around with a bunch of scholars. They only said a few sentences in total and most of them were nonsense. Do I have to write them down as well? Emperor Yangfeng sighed and tapped heavily on the scroll he used to record all the huge incidents in the imperial court. He then said sincerely and earnestly, if thousands of years later the future generation of eternal peace searches through all the historical records and doesn't find the record of the first primordial spirit assembly, they are going to jab at your spine and scold you. Not only must you record it, you even have to paint it, this primordial spirit assembly. Cold sweat broke out of the forehead of that scribe. He hurriedly recorded the event of the first primordial spirit meeting and the few sentences that Qin Mu and the rest had said. He felt extremely grieved in his heart as he did so. These words are clearly nonsense, so why would the future generation scold me because of this little thing? However, if I don't record them, His Majesty is going to behead me. 2 more hours passed, and Qin Mu returned from 1,000 miles away. The other scholars also came back to Imperial College. They started a racket as they did so, making the place incomparably lively. Qin Mu gathered experts skilled in algebra and calculated the lacking points in the technique from the abnormal sights he had recorded. Not long later, the technique approached perfection, and there were no more signs of primordial spirits bouncing all over the place. Qin Mu climbed onto the Hall of Supreme Learning to fix the wrong rune markings, and after half a day of work, they quickly ran out again to make another test. This time, there were no more abnormal sights from the primordial spirits. Emperor Yangfeng never left, quietly watching the proceedings until nightfall. With the emperor not moving, the civil and military officials didn't dare to leave as well, so they all stood there. After Qin Mu was done, he let the secretaries of Floor of Heavenly Records to record the technique and the rune markings. Only then did Emperor Yangfeng went forward and said, Chancellor Qin has done merit to the country, so how should I reward you? Qin Mu stretched his back and said with a smile, if your Majesty wants to reward me, then reward everyone in Imperial College with a dinner. This technique wasn't founded by me, but by gathering the wisdom of everyone here. All right. Emperor Yangfeng then instructed, invite all the chefs from the Imperial kitchen and let them bring the ingredients as well. I want to reward all the scholars as well as these Taoists and monks that are in Imperial College with food and drinks. If there's a lack of manpower, officials, invite all the chefs in your respective families as well. I'm going to dine here and eat with them too. The lamps in Imperial College shone so bright that it seemed like day, and all the chefs in the capital were probably invited to Imperial College to cook up their best dishes. All kinds of culinary techniques were executed and it was a dazzling sight, like all the different kinds of divine arts coming together. The fragrance of the food drew out the glutton in everyone, and the emperor ordered people to bring over fine wine from the palace. Does this technique of yours have a name? Emperor Yangfeng turned to ask in the banquet. Qin Mu shook his head, and Emperor Yangfeng smiled. The path produces 1, 1 produces 2, 2 produce 3, and 3 produce all things. Why don't we call it Secrets of 3 Primordial Spirit Assembly? What's Minister Qin's opinion? Before Qin Mu could even reply, Jiyu Linwan brought a bunch of ministers to praise the idea. Your Majesty is of great talent, and this small official prostrates himself in admiration. Emperor Yangfeng laughed loudly, now certain about the name of the technique. He then asked, Minister Qin, what are those runes that you marked inside Hall of Supreme Learning for? Your Majesty, the runes are a guide for the primordial spirits. Their speed is too fast, able to travel 10,000 miles in an instant. With these runes, we are able to guide the primordial spirit to an exact location. Emperor Yangfeng frowned. Wouldn't these kinds of runes that can attract primordial spirits be used by the enemy? If they use them and guide the primordial spirits of my eternal peace's generals to catch them in one fell swoop, wouldn't my eternal peace be completely wiped out? The civil and military officials felt fear in their hearts and nodded together. Xu Shenghua came over and said, "Your Majesty, you might not know this, but the runes we designed can be interchangeable. There are different ways to line up the runes for them to remain compatible with secrets of 3 primordial spirit assembly. There are 1 billion more combinations than there are people, so this kind of complicated rune arrangement is impossible to solve." Emperor Yangfeng sighed ruefully. A Daoist ran over and took a glance at Qin Mu, then braved himself to say, "Your Majesty, there's a fox with a huge pig and a large chest down near the lake. They've caught 2 red dragon carp kings and are currently roasting them." How maddening. This style is familiar to my ears. Emperor Yangfeng looked at Qin Mu and said with a smile, "Minister Qin, yours." Qin Mu's face turned slightly red, and he hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, let me hurry over and punish them severely." Truly fooling around. After he said that, he got up and left. When he came to the lake, Hu Linga was scolding the chest. "You see, the waves you churned were too big and alarmed the Daoist guarding the lake. You'll eat the fish bones later. Fatty dragon, lower the fire, don't burn it." Qin Mu walked over and said with a smile, "Leave some for me." Hu Linga cheered at him and immediately lowered her voice. "Young master, I know you like to eat this kind of fish, so I got Fatty Dragon to catch 2 more. However, the chest was a disappointment. When it was about to hide the fish in its stomach, it was discovered by the Daoist who guards the lake." Qin Mu rubbed his hands and said with a smile, "I had long wanted to eat a few more, but I didn't have the face to steal." When the fish was cooked, Hu Linga controlled her wind blades to slice the meat. She gave the dragon Chalene 1 portion, Qin Mu another, and 1 more for herself. The chest lay on the side and waited for them to finish eating so it could collect the fish bones. Suddenly, laughter rang out. "How fragrant! This is much more fragrant than the imperial cooking. Cult Master Qin is truly a professional in the eating path. Leave some for me." Qin Mu turned back to look and saw a devil ape and a young monk. That monk was none other than Monk Mingxin, whose appetite had been whetted when he smelled the fragrance. Hu Linga gave him a chunk of fish, and Qin Mu asked in bewilderment when he saw Mingxin wolfing it down, "Monk also eats fish?" Mingxin didn't raise his head. "After leaving Cult Master then, in the natural and man-made disaster, I have even gnawed on tree bark, much less fish. I even grabbed worms to eat. When I was starving, I even sliced my own flesh to feed myself." He lifted up his robes and showed a scar on his chest. He smiled then. "From then on, I comprehended my own scripture. All living things don't mean human and demons only, but also includes plants and worms. However, all living things are just a reincarnation. I eat them, and after I die, they will eat me. It's merely that. When a person is struggling in the sea of bitterness, what they seek isn't Buddha but the other shore in one's heart, and I have already seen the other shore." Qin Mu nodded to his words and said with a smile, "Excellent, your frame of mind is very brilliant now." Hu Linga sliced another chunk of fish for the devil ape, who shook its head. "Vegetarian, strong. He doesn't want it, but I'll take it." A hand stretched out from the side and took the fish. Dao Master Lin Xian sat down beside the devil ape and said with a smile, "This fish is even more fragrant than the imperial cooking." Qin Mu smiled. "You are also a Daoist monk, yet you can eat non-vegetarian food too." Dao Master Lin Xian ate the fish in big mouthfuls while saying in a muffled voice, "Even the sky is fake, so how is a monk real? The one that herds cows, you are eating my father's fish again." A gust of fragrance assaulted their nostrils as Ling Yuxia squeezed past Hu Linga, who was beside Qin Mu, and sat down. She patted her hands and tore a chunk of fish before biting into it without a care for scalding her mouth. She sucked in a few quick breaths and praised, "Delicious, truly delicious. Princess Xiao, wait for me." Cai Yunxiang also ran over and sat down beside the bonfire. She wanted to push Hu Linga to the side too, but the fox transformed into a 6 to 7 years old girl with a puff and crossed her arms in front of her chest. She sat angrily between the 2 girls and didn't get up no matter what. Cai Yunxiang was too embarrassed to push her away and could only let her sit there. Everyone was talking and laughing while sharing the red dragon carp king. Not long later, Wang Muren, Mu Qingdai, Long Yu, and Xu Shenghua also found their way over. Wang Muren said with a smile, "You guys won't be able to finish 2 carp kings of this size, so let us help you." "No need to thank me." Qin Mu looked around and said with a smile, "It's rare for the heads of Heaven Alliance to meet up, so let's not go home until we are drunk." "What Heaven Alliance?" Lin Yuxia was puzzled and hurriedly asked, "Is it an alliance to overthrow my father? If it is, count me in." Xu Shenghua, Lin Xian, and Wang Muren hesitated for a moment, not knowing if they should explain it. Qin Mu then said, "There are no outsiders here, so let's just speak the truth. However, once we say it, you will all become members of my Heaven Alliance. Is there anyone who doesn't want to listen?" The dragon Chilean immediately got up and bit the chest, dragging it away before it could pick up the fish bones. "The less we know, the longer we will live." Fatty Dragon taught the chest. Suddenly the bonfire flickered, and opposite Qin Mu a youth stretched out his hand to tear a chunk of fish. He then said leisurely, "I would like to know about this Heaven Alliance as well. May great divine physician Qin enlighten me." Qin Mu's blood ran cold, and he hurriedly looked toward the mountaintop of Imperial College. "The whole Imperial Court can be a match for me. Your emperor isn't weak, and I reckon he has already cultivated his divine bridge," the youth said indifferently. "However, before they could hurry over, you guys would all be corpses. Great divine physician Qin, don't be reckless. Come, tell me about Heaven Alliance." This video will end here.